Alright, so in Black Ops 3 Zombies, whenever you're waiting for a lobby or loading or whatever, you have like a little animation of your character, of them sitting at a campfire and like eating beans, as well as the ability to go like onto your profile and see like them up close. And well, this is just a neat little thing they decided to squeeze in here. Although I definitely gotta say, it always bugged me that it didn't do this with every single character. Like, it does it with the Shadows of Evil characters, and it does it with all the Origins versions of the main characters. But when they added in Zombies Chronicles and the original versions of the characters, they didn't come into these loading screens. And well, it always just felt kinda disappointing not seeing them pop up here. Them essentially being left out. Alright, so this is something I just kind of realized. In the opening cutscene for Mob of the Dead in Black Ops 2, we see the prisoners try to escape Alcatraz before it starts turning into a zombie-infested hellscape. And during this escape attempt, they use snub-nose revolvers. And I might add, I believe that these revolvers are like unique models. They're not the Python or the Executioner. So I gotta ask, why aren't they in the map itself? Like either as the starting pistol instead of just the usual M1911, or maybe even something that you would find in the box. Since it does just seem like kind of a waste to have a unique model made just for an opening cutscene and not feature it within the map itself. In my opinion, one of the best and probably most overpowered pieces of equipment in Call of Duty history was the Black Hat in Black Ops 2. Because with this thing you were able to hack other people's equipment, or use it to take down UAVs or even attack helicopters. And the best part about it was that it was resupplyable if you had Scavenger on. But my favorite part about this thing was the fact that you could take care packages with it. So because of this, I would purposely throw the care package on top of a roof you couldn't get on top of or out of bounds. So no one could steal it or booby trap it, and I could just scoop it right up with the Black Hat. So here's something about Sonic 3 and Knuckles I never understood. It involving the final boss that appears at the end of Sonic 3. And well, I just never understood why this boss fight was cut when you put the two games together. Like, the only thing I could think of is that since it wasn't the end of the game anymore, it was considered unnecessary. But yet, that's just a perfectly good boss removed from the game. So back when I was a kid, I always remember having an issue in the mission Frigate in GoldenEye, it involving the bombs you had to defuse during the mission, and in order to do this you had to swap to your bomb defusal kit. And well, the reason I always screwed this up was because in order to use this thing you had to press the shoot button, since it technically was a weapon. So the mistake I always made was pressing the interact button instead, which just instantly blows the thing up. So I guess I'd like to know if anyone else made this mistake too. I never fully understood timers or clocks in GTA games. Like, I get in the games that it's 24 minutes instead of 24 hours and like a second is the equivalent to a minute, but then you'll get like missions where it's like do this in a certain amount of minutes, and then in the game's logic that's like hours though. Like, to be more specific, the mission that made me think of this was the one in Vice City, where Tommy has to go to the mall and destroy a whole bunch of glass windows. Because at the beginning of the mission he says give me 5 minutes, which then you have a 5-minute timer to beat it in. But then it's like 5 minutes for us is 5 hours for them. So in Black Ops 1, Richtofen has an ultimate plan to get control of the zombies, with him teleporting through time and space in order to get the stuff he needs, like the focusing stone and the golden rod, and then finally go to the moon in order to swap souls with Samantha. And well, I bring this all up because it's really funny to me if you just simplify his plan, because it literally just boils down to Richtofen wants to get inside the body of a little girl. You know, it's always funny to play a game that's contemporary to the time of when it was released, and see the jokes that either people wouldn't get today or wouldn't be able to be made today. Or in my example, a joke that kinda just doesn't work anymore. That being the running joke in Postal 2 about the very long lines they have to wait in, and how you basically have to just sit there and do nothing and just wait. Just like if you were in a line in real life. And this would be excruciatingly boring. And well, in my opinion, this joke doesn't have as much as an impact as it did back in 2003, since nowadays just about everyone has their phones to screw around and entertain themselves with, while they wait for the line to move. So in the SpongeBob movie game, you're picking up manly points in order to get upgrades. And this is represented by a bar that you have to keep filling up. And well, once you get all the upgrades the game has, the bar kinda just keeps going, with it turning into a huge number that you're really not supposed to get to. So then my question is, has anyone actually went out of their way to fill up that bar? And if they did, what happened when it filled up? Since I kinda don't expect something to be unlocked by it, with either the bar just resetting or maybe just keep going. Alright, so at the end of Paper Mario 2, you go up against the final boss, which is the Shadow Queen. And well, after defeating this fairly difficult two-phase boss, you end up getting rewarded, with only a single star point. And well, I bring this all up because I genuinely wonder if anyone's ever actually leveled up off of that, whether it be by like pure chance or actually going out of your way to do it, which I feel would actually be pretty difficult since you literally have to set it up to 99 exactly, and not accidentally go over. So do we know which wars Frank West has covered? I mean, considering when the first game takes place, the obvious answer would be something like the Iraq War, but apparently Frank is 36 during the events of the first game, so for all we know he could have covered a war in the 90s or possibly even the late 80s. This always bugged the hell out of me as a kid. It having to do with the after credits cutscene in Creature from the Krusty Krab. The cutscene itself being an epilogue for the game showing where Gary had all the ideas for his dreams. But the cutscene itself is fine, it's just I never understood why it never had any audio. Yeah, for whatever reason there's just nothing to be heard here even though the characters are like clearly talking. So I just assumed this was done on purpose. Especially with this game being as weird as it was, a cutscene with no sound really wasn't that out of place for it. But lo and behold, when I decide to look up the cutscene online, there's audio for it. So then my question becomes, does specifically the GameCube version of this game not have audio in this cutscene? Or is there just something wrong with my personal copy? So in the story mode for Tropico 5, you're constantly moving through different eras of history, starting off in the colonial era, then the World Wars, then Cold War, then modern times. And well, I bring this all up because the characters that you interact with throughout the story just stay. None of them die off, and it's just really funny to think that they're like immortal, with someone that you first meet during the colonial period still talking to you during like the Cold War. So in every Sonic game there are rings, and these act as your life. And well, with this thought, I'm just kinda sitting here wondering something. With as plentiful as rings are in Sonic games, has anyone ever been crazy enough to try and beat one without collecting them? Or getting any power-ups for that matter as well? Because I don't even think it would be possible. There's always like rings in your path and it would be just not possible to avoid them. Plus, if you do successfully get away from the rings, then there's just the simple fact that you're vulnerable. One hit and you're dead. And it wouldn't help if you were playing one of the games with limited lives. So in Dead Rising 2, just like the first game, you have 72 hours to beat the main story. But obviously this being a game, that's not actually going to equal out to 3 whole days. However, at certain points in the game, you will get reminded of how much time you have left. And well, this is all the way down to the second. So I'm kind of questioning if the game actually like slows itself down for this specific like few seconds. So I'm just sitting here wondering if you can keep popping up this message over and over again and the game will actually last for 3 real life days. So in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, you could not swim. Instead, you would just immediately drown. So when the prequel game, Vice City Stories, came out, it came with the ability to swim. And well, I bring this all up because I find it kinda odd that this major function being put in here is kind of very underutilized. And what I mean by that is that it's literally used in one mission and that's it. They really should have gotten more required use out of it. I always loved those first-person shooter minigames in the Thrillville series, and you would have this little level to explore, to find bonuses and better weapons, and fighting off robotic enemies all along the way. But I definitely gotta say that the best and most satisfying part of these minigames was whenever you got a headshot. Yeah, it always felt great to get a single shot onto them and see their head pop off, and then get a sweet reward of a solid 1,000 points for your good marksmanship. Alright, so in Paper Mario 2, the stage that you fight enemies on gets upgraded after a certain amount of level ups. And with these stage upgrades, not only comes more people to watch, but also events that actually happen on the stage itself. With the one I want to focus in on being the fog, which makes you sometimes miss your attacks. And well, I'm just sitting here wondering if one particular attack is affected by the fog, that being the tattle, since it's like the one attack that if you do correctly is always guaranteed to work. So then I'm just wondering if there's fog on the screen, can you actually miss a tattle even though you did it correctly? Alright, so this is just something I noticed that kind of feels like a missed opportunity at the end of Infinite Warfare Zombies. It involving the final boss fight of Mephistopheles. And well, the cutscene before the boss fight shows the characters now wearing the suits that Willard wears. And well, I thought it would have been neat if they wore this for the boss fight, instead of just defaulting back to the clothes that they had in the final map. Or heck, maybe even fight them off in the regular clothes that they had before they got sucked into everything. I mean, I get why this wasn't done, it's such a small, insignificant detail that would only be available for the boss fight, but it really could have been one of those cool little things that you notice and it goes a long way. Would have Max Payne 3 gone over better if it was its own game? You know, the same type of story, gameplay, graphics, and even music, being all unique to itself, instead of it trying to connect itself to very different types of games. Very different stylized games, I should specify, since obviously all three of them are third-person shooters. Or would have it been just forgotten about since it wasn't connected to a bigger series? So this always just bugged me and probably many other people in Simpsons Hit and Run, that being the simple fact that the last 4 missions in this game are literally just the same exact thing, with you needing to get the nuclear waste all the way to the spaceship. And it's just like, this game had so many diverse missions that it just feels weird for them to end on this. Almost like they kinda ran out of time and couldn't think of anything else. So in Sonic City, Dr. Robotnik has taken over Little Planet, and has chained it to a mountain so it can't escape, as well as seemed to have completely roboticized it. And well, I always kinda wondered what exactly he was gonna use it for, especially in this state, since I almost want to say that it's like a replacement Death Egg, or maybe a prototype one since now this game takes place before Sonic 2. The taxi is just like the most reliable car in just about any GTA game, since it not only appears in like every single game, but it also appears in like every single city that the game has. You won't be needing to go to a specific area just to get one. And although they might not be the fastest of cars, they are the perfect thing to get when you need to do a mission where you need to get a 4-door car. So yeah, the taxi is always around at your convenience, although not in the way the person driving it would think so. So when I played Battle for Bikini Bottom as a kid, there were certain spatulas where I just had no clue what to do, and I would ultimately not end up getting them till like many years later. And the most infamous one that comes to mind is the one in the Flying Dutchman's graveyard of draining the goo, one that I wouldn't be surprised if anyone else got stuck on, because whenever I would always pick it, it would just put you right in front of the tanker, and then you were just supposed to put together that you were supposed to shoot a cruise bubble at it in order to shut it, then stop the goo from coming out. But it was just a bit too cryptic for my kid self to figure out, and again, I just never got it done. Alright, so this is just a dumb one. So in GoldenEye, whenever you're aiming your weapons, you're not actually using like the proper scopes or sights. Instead, just really zooming in on your targets. And well, because of this, I can only conclude one thing. James Bond must have some great eyesight to be able to see enemies from that far away.